Good evening, Disney Internships. I'm Chris Parsons, here tonight interviewing Christopher Paolini, an exclusive interview exploring his creativity and the products of his innovation. Thank you for joining us tonight, Chris.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here.
Or would you prefer to be called Christopher?
You can call me Christopher or Chris or Topher or Seaman or Shade Slayer or Dragon Thunder.
Right, let's begin. The first question I have for you is, what about your environment, where you grew up, inspired or allowed you to be creative?
You know, we came from a very isolated part of Montana, which is, a big state. And the town I lived in was only about 60 miles away from the nearest city, which is quite a distance. And the town consisted of only about 6,000 people.
Oh, really? That's small.
But the rolling hills and the majestic mountains really gave spark to my imagination as far as where I wanted to base my characters in. I'd always been fascinated with books like Lord of the Rings and fantasy adventures, that I knew I wanted to write about something majestic and fantastical, and so that's where Eragon and dragons came to life, was really in where I lived. But I think that it really helped to encourage my writing and push me to do better. But really, where I lived and the love of my family really helped to create the fantasy, the world where I based my characters in.
I can't imagine what that would be like. That's terrible. Please describe to me how your mind works.
A lot of writers, authors, they see writing as the opportunity to explain the world around them, put all their thoughts and emotions and opinions of what's happening around them into a world where everything can make sense, where they're in control, but also where they learn from what they write. But me personally, I'm very methodical when it comes to my thinking. I have to outline everything. When writing the first book, it was more of a practice. And when I kind of got stuck, I read a couple of books on writing and discovered that I could get a lot further if I outlined the ideas and the chapters and the characters and the events. And so when I outlined the first book and all the characters and the plot line and everything, I began writing, in between, going, okay, I'll write 500 pages for the first one, and if I can't get past that, then I'll go back to the outline.
Okay. Moving on. What personal characteristics contribute to your creativity?
Well, the fact that I started writing at such a young age, 15, really contributed to, the imagination that I was able to have. Most kids play with toys or, video games or something like that, but I always loved writing short stories. And when high school came and, there wasn't a lot of assignments for writing, I kind of got lost and didn't write for a while, but I missed it a lot. And so I always went back to writing. And so the creativity I was able to hold on to as a child when I started writing carried through, and I was able to continue that through the writing.
Fascinating. Just a couple more questions and you can be on your way.
Yeah, you said that about 5 hours ago.
What barriers did you have to overcome?
Well, as I said before, I come from a very small town, and that was a challenge in itself, being able to uh, branch out and be able to network and be able to get my book out there. And Montana is a very big state, and me and my family, we didn't really want to drive from town to town a lot, and that was just something that would be too costly and really harsh on our family ties, and so we just traveled from school to school nearby. And I think in the span of Eragon, I visited about 136 schools, and in each school there was about 3 to 4 1-hour long presentations that I would make.
Oh, I can't imagine.
And the book wasn't picked up until Carl Hyacin, that he picked it up and presented it to Random House, and they picked it up from there. But the challenge of getting the book out there was pretty difficult, but also the difficulty it came with mixing business with family. My family wanted to be very independent as far as business went and financials, and so it was difficult to have something that was so personal to me in the books be a business plan, but also just as the family, it was pretty difficult.
I came from a family of 14, so I wouldn't know. What are you most proud of? What has been, in your opinion, your biggest accomplishment?
Well, I'd have to say that my last book is probably my proudest moment, the accomplishment I feel most proud of. All the books really accumulated are an accomplishment I feel very honored to have been a part of. But with the last book, I discovered that there was a lot more to writing. It was difficult to get the characters to come to that conclusion, but also to get it out soon enough for the fans to still be interested. And with that last book, I feel like I came to a conclusion where I would hope that the fans enjoyed it, and that the fans saw the ultimate cycle that I was trying to create. I learned so much in the evolution of my characters, and in the plot line, and learned so much from myself as from my ability as a writer.
Aren't you lucky to be so creative? If only some of us could take classes to learn about creativity and innovation. What is your best piece of advice in encouraging others to be more creative?
Oh, I would have to say persistence. Persistence. It's impossible to improve your craft or your creativity without having to work at it every single day. And I think that's one of the things that writing has taught me, is persistence.
Persistence is the key. If I had more persistence, I probably would have lasted those first 3 marriages.
3 marriages? Really?
No, I'm not really married. I haven't, no. That was just me being creative.
Yeah, you might want to refrain from being so creative. You might just want to start with your ties. Get a little variety in that.
Anyway, well, this has been an exclusive and very intimate interview with the author Christopher Paolini of the Eragon Inheritance Trilogy. Any chance we might be able to see a better Eragon movie? That first one was a travesty.
Well, I was only a minor part of the movie making. The producers assured me that they would do my book justice. But we can't all have Peter Jackson directing